Enlightenment and the Art of Mindful Living. Introduction. The many pathways of Buddhism and contemporary contemplative traditions. The art of mindful living has become one of the most accessible and transformative practices for people around the world. Mindfulness, though rooted in early Buddhist teachings, has grown beyond the monastery walls to touch daily life, family, work, creativity, and even modern medicine. At its heart, mindfulness is more than a technique for stress reduction. It is a gateway to awakening Bodhi and a means of embodying enlightenment in every step, breath, and thought. This essay explores the profound relationship between enlightenment and mindful living. It investigates how mindfulness sati cultivates the conditions for awakening, how daily awareness transforms perception, and how mindful living itself becomes a form of art and aesthetic, ethical and spiritual orientation toward reality. Through examining Buddhist teachings, historical practices, and contemporary applications, we can understand how enlightenment is not distant or abstract, but found in the living. Immediacy of mindful awareness. 1. Mindfulness as the foundation of awakening. In the Pali Canon, mindfulness is described as the direct path to purification, to overcoming sorrow and lamentation, and to the realization of nibbana. The Satipatthana Sutta discourse on the 4 foundations of mindfulness outlines 4 key areas of cultivation: body, feelings, mind, and phenomena, dharmas. Mindfulness of the body, kiranopasan, awareness of breathing, posture, movements, and bodily functions, grounds the practitioner in the present, dissolving restlessness and anchoring attention. Mindfulness of feelings, vedanu observing pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings without clinging or aversion, helps disentangle habitual reactions. Mindfulness of the mind, sittanupassaning, recognizing the states of the mind, whether greedy, angry, deluded, concentrated, liberated, develops insight into impermanence and conditionality. Mindfulness of phenomena, dhammanupassan, reflecting on the 5 hindrances, the aggregates, the sense bases, and the 4 noble truths, cultivates direct insight into the nature of reality. Each of these practices points toward enlightenment by eroding ignorance of adib, the root of suffering. Mindfulness sharpens attention, stabilizes awareness, and reveals the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self nature of all phenomena. Without mindfulness, the path to awakening is impossible too. Enlightenment as lived awareness. One of the misconceptions of enlightenment is that it is a distant, transcendent event experienced only after years of ascetic practice. While awakening can indeed be a profound and transformative realization, Buddhist traditions also emphasize its immanence. Enlightenment is not apart from life, but revealed within it. Mindful living is the art of embodying this truth. When one eats with awareness, walks with presence, speaks with compassion, and listens deeply, one is already touching the ground of awakening. The Zen tradition often highlights this in sayings such as chop wood, carry water, pointing to the ordinary of enlightenment. The awakened state is not an escape from reality, but an intimate participation in it. 3. The aesthetic of mindful living. Describing mindful living as an art is not metaphorical exaggeration, but a recognition of its aesthetic dimension. Living mindfully involves cultivating beauty, simplicity, and harmony in daily life. This is seen in Zen gardens and tea ceremonies, where every gesture is infused with presence and elegance. Mindful eating, where food becomes a sacred offering, an act of gratitude. Mindful speech and silence, where communication becomes a refined balance of truth, compassion, and clarity. Such practices reveal that mindfulness is not only a tool for spiritual progress, but also a way of creating beauty in life. Like an artist shaping a canvas, the mindful practitioner shapes each moment with awareness, crafting a life that reflects wisdom and compassion. 4. Mindfulness and compassion. Two wings of enlightenment. Enlightenment is never solitary. True awakening dissolves the boundaries of ego and awakens boundless compassion, karuna. Mindfulness nurtures this compassion by enabling us to see the suffering of others clearly, without judgment or distraction. When one is present, one notices the pain in another's voice, the fatigue in their eyes, the fragility of their condition. Mindfulness transforms perception from indifference to intimacy. This intimacy naturally gives rise to compassion, which in turn enriches mindfulness. Together, mindfulness and compassion become two wings of the bird of enlightenment. Neither can fly without the other. 5. The transformation of perception. One of the greatest gifts of mindful living is the transformation of perception. Ordinarily, perception is clouded by craving, fear, prejudice, and distraction. We see the world not as it is, but as filtered through our desires and aversions. Mindfulness cleanses this lens. Impermanence anicca. With mindfulness, we observe how everything arises and passes away, moment by moment. A breath arises, stays, dissolves. Thoughts appear, vanish. Even emotions, seemingly solid, shift and change. Non-self and nat. With mindful observation, the illusion of a permanent, unchanging self is seen through. Instead, the self is recognized as a fluid process of aggregates into being, as THCHNHN emphasizes. Mindfulness reveals that nothing exists independently. A flower contains the sun, the rain, the earth, and the gardener. Likewise, we exist in radical interconnection with all beings. This transformation of perception is itself a form of enlightenment, as it liberates us from clinging and opens the heart to wisdom. 6. Mindfulness in daily life, the modern relevance in modern times. Mindfulness has been adopted in contexts far beyond monasteries, psychology, healthcare, education, and corporate wellness. Programs such as mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBS, show that mindfulness reduces anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. Yet, if mindfulness is practiced only as a therapeutic tool, it risks losing its deeper orientation toward awakening. True mindful living is not only about stress reduction, but about liberation from suffering at its root. Even in modern contexts, mindfulness retains its transformative potential when integrated with ethical conduct, compassion, and wisdom. 7. Obstacles to mindful living. Despite its simplicity, mindful living is challenging. The primary obstacles are the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, kamakanda, the pull of pleasures distracts from the present; ill will, vipada, anger and resentment obscure awareness; sloth and torpor, thinamida, dullness, prevents clarity; restlessness and worry, uddhaka kuka, agitation, scatters attention; doubt, vichikitchba, skepticism, undermines confidence in the path. Mindful living requires recognizing these hindrances without judgment, patiently returning to the present. Over time, awareness itself transforms these obstacles into opportunities for insight. 8. Enlightenment as mindful liberation. Ultimately, the relationship between enlightenment and mindful living is not one of means and end, but of mutual presence. Mindfulness is both the path and the expression of awakening. When mindfulness is continuous, Each moment is lived as liberation. The practitioner is no longer bound by compulsive desires or aversions, but lives with spacious awareness and compassionate presence. This is not an abstract attainment, but a lived reality. Enlightenment here and now, manifesting in the way one eats, breathes, smiles, and walks. Conclusion: enlightenment and the art of mindful living are inseparable. Mindfulness provides the practical discipline through which awakening becomes embodied, while enlightenment gives mindfulness its ultimate meaning. The art of mindful living transforms daily existence into a field of awakening, where every gesture becomes a brushstroke in the painting of a liberated life. In this way, enlightenment is not a remote ideal, but the flowering of awareness in the ordinary. The art of mindful living reveals that the path and the goal are one: to live fully, compassionately, and wisely in the present moment.